Hello, my gorgeous writer friends. Welcome back to Heart Breathings. This is one of my favorite videos to make every year, which is our Preptober planner. It is October, and I am so excited to get started planning a new book. So we're going to talk all about how to start planning, how to get involved with Preptober, how to participate in the Rough Draft Challenge this year, and how to get your hands on this brand new Preptober Rough Draft Challenge planner. So settle in. This is probably going to be a long video, so grab a coffee, tea, water, whatever your favorite beverage and snack, grab your planner, and let's start getting ready for the Rough Draft Challenge. All right, I have a free planner for you this year. So this is not just a Preptober Plan Your Novel planner. If you're new to Heart Breathings, this is also a daily, weekly planner for the entire month of November that you can keep track of your entire project. You can keep track of your word counts. You can keep track of your characters, your plot. I have tons of free resources for you. If you are already on my newsletter, you can go ahead and grab this. Just head to the link that I sent you in email today, or to, if you already have the resource library saved, and you can find the folder at the top that's labeled Preptober Rough Draft Challenge 2024. And you're going to find 4 versions of this download. So it's letter size only, so you can resize it as needed. I've resized mine down to Happy Planner size, which means that I printed it at 82% and then punched it from there. And you've got the only real difference between the Sunday and Monday start is just that the monthly planner or the monthly calendar of November either starts on a Sunday or it starts on a Monday. I do have weekly planner pages, but all of those start on Monday. So if you are a Sunday start weekly person, just redate them if you'd like. Too many things for me to do. I'm keeping up with it as best I can, but you've got those 2 versions. Then you also have a version that is digital. So hopefully this will show up with all this lighting here, but I created a digital version of this for you as well. And so if you have a tablet, I don't have a portrait version, just this landscape version where you have 2 pages per spread, but you can use this. I've got a Samsung tablet. So this is an app called Penly. There's also an app called Zoto. You can use this inside Samsung Notes if you're using a Samsung tablet. If you have an iPad, you can use things like GoodNotes, or there's plenty of notes apps out there, and it is hyperlinked for you to move between the weeks, as well as if you want to go back to your prep pages and things like that. So I've got both versions with the Sunday calendar and the Monday calendar, and in printable and in digital. So enjoy. That is my free gift to you as we start the Rough Draft Challenge. And we're going to go all the way through this planner, and we're going to talk about how to actually plan out your novel project for November. But if you missed my earlier video, I'm going to link it down below, where I talked about basically stepping away from the official NaNoWriMo. And we're not going to focus on that today because I want to just focus on positive things, but I will just tell you, go back and watch that video. I am no longer going to be participating myself in the official NaNoWriMo challenge in November. So instead, I decided for our community here, let's just call it the Rough Draft Challenge. In November, I'm still going to be doing daily vlogs, and they're going to be called the Rough Draft Diaries. And we decided we're going to do it a little differently this year. The rules, so-called rules, are here in the front of the planner. And that is, again, thank you all so much for your suggestions on what to call the tiers, because we could just keep it simple, just call it the 10K tier, the 25K tier, and that would be fine if that's what you want to do. But I wanted to call them something a little bit different for the, I'm going to be giving out certificates. There's going to be a very basic website that will probably be going up very close to November. So just be patient. This is simple little thing that George and I are doing together, and he's going through a lot as his father just recently had a stroke. So things are taking a little longer than we hoped, but I'm excited, and I appreciated so many people suggested great options for how to name the tiers. But the one that I naturally gravitated toward were those of you that were saying, why don't we name them after gemstones? I love this because if you have read my Shadow Demon saga, you know that I have portals into another world. I read a lot of portal fantasy for young adults, and the portals into other worlds are based on gemstones, and I love gemstones. So ironically, this is my favorite gemstone, which is a citrine, and I didn't add that to the list, but maybe we will expand in future years. I also really wanted to make sure that it didn't feel like, oh, you're better or you're a gold star if you got 100,000 words, but only bronze if you get 10,000. Because the truth is, part of the problem with NaNoWriMo always, for me, has been 50,000 words is just not always achievable for everybody in 30 days. Even if you're giving it 100% your all, you're not editing your words, you're just getting it down on the page. It just takes a certain amount of time and commitment to do that many words in 30 days. Plus, some people have arthritis or pain in their hands, or they've got little ones to take care of. It just isn't accessible for everybody, even if you are giving it your all. So I wanted to make sure to name them such that it feels like 10,000 words, if that's what you are aiming for, is just as good as 50,000 words. And the truth is, it all comes out in the wash. Like, I wrote 50,000 words last year, and it took me an entire year to edit those words and get the book out. So if you did not see the news, by the way, The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw has a release date. It will be out on October 25th, which is the last Friday of October. I don't know if by the time this video goes up, it will actually be live for pre-order, but be looking for those pre-order numbers if you want to buy The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw. It would mean the absolute world to me. But here are the tiers. So 10,000 word tier is Emerald. Sapphire is 25K, Ruby 50K, Amethyst 100,000 or more words. And then I also created a Diamond tier, which maybe I should have called it Citrine. But Diamond is just create your own challenge. So let's say you're not writing words, but you're editing, or let's say you're writing blog posts, or you're creating artwork, or you're crocheting, or you're doing a big memory keeping project, or even if you're using the month of November and your planner to redecorate your house or declutter your house. This is open to everybody. So you might be writing your master's thesis. Congratulations. So you would be Diamond tier, and you can create that challenge for yourself. And if you accomplish it, you win the Diamond challenge. And so this will be the kind of thing where at the beginning, we will have a place for you. And again, it's going to be super, super simple. We don't have like $1 million like the NaNoWriMo website to be creating something. It's going to be very bare bones. But if you want to use it, we will have a basic site available for you where you can declare what tier you're going after. But let's say you decide, okay, I'm going for Ruby 50K. And then a couple days into the month, you have some kind of thing like the flu or whatever, and you just can't get it done, or your work needs you extra, and you make it to 27,000. Instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I failed at the Ruby tier, you're still going to get the 25,000 Sapphire award. And so you can still aim higher and end up with something less. But as long as you hit one of these tiers, you're still going to win, and it still means just as much. So hopefully that will feel good. And, you know, it is a vulnerable thing for me to be putting myself out there kind of as a leader of a challenge. And I did it first because I was like, oh, let's do something fun for the community. But there's way more interest than I thought. And there were some people that were really negative, like you're being an opportunist, et cetera, et cetera. And that's fine. You're welcome to your opinions, but just know that my heart is just here to try to make sure everybody is able to write words, and that we can maintain the spirit of community and writing our books without over editing or over judging ourselves and overthinking it. And let's just get the words on the page, and let's enjoy community. So again, we're going to go into the planner. It's a lot of intro. I'm sorry, but we have so much fun stuff coming up. I'll have daily vlogs. I'm going to have lots of videos here in October. Plus I have my previous Preptober playlists that I will link down below for you that are all about like how to write great characters, how to write with scenes. And there are inside the resource library a lot more than just the Preptober planner. There's also how to plot your novel, how to write a series, how to edit your novel, tons and tons of resources that I've created for you. And it's 100% totally free. So all you have to do is sign up for my newsletter. You can grab the resources and unsubscribe if you're not into newsletters. That's totally fine. But if you decide you want to use the Preptober planner, please don't share the file with other people. Share my newsletter sign up, because that is essentially the payment, I guess, for creating this, and I would certainly appreciate it. Or share my YouTube channel so that we can get more subscribers over here. So you've got a quote page, you have the challenge explanation. I did also change some of the fonts in this planner because I have used a branded font for myself for years in both HB90 and in this planner. And I think that for some people, the fonts I was using were a little bit more difficult to read. So let me know if this font is better, because I think I'm going to be changing the HB90 fonts as well. And I feel like this looks really clean. So we're going to take step by step all the way through this planner, and I'm going to walk you through how to begin planning your rough draft challenge in the month of November. So the first thing you have in here is a noveling checklist. And I created this as just a way to say, okay, what all do I need to think about before I actually step into November 1st and try to hit this rough draft challenge goal. So you have a lot of things that you can begin to prep in Preptober. So one of them is prepping your plan. So that's looking at your available time for the month. We're going to do that in detail in just a minute. Deciding your word count goal. So it takes a little pressure off to say it doesn't have to be 50,000 words, but you can still win at 10,000. So we're going to talk about how to determine what feels like a realistic goal for you, and maybe a little bit of a stretch, but something that still feels achievable. Prep your plan for when you're going to write every day, how you're going to clear your schedule, or what program are you going to write in Google Docs? Are you going to write in Scrivener? Are you going to handwrite? All of these types of things are just small decisions, but they add up. And if you wait until November, you might be like, oh, I'm not sure where I was going to save this, or do I want to write on this laptop, or, those kind of things. Rewards. I'm a big fan of rewards. I am very motivated by rewards. So if you want to reward yourself, we're going to talk about that too. Meals and snacks. I have a planner inside this download for that as well, because there is a thing inside our brains. If you're a scientist or a neuroscience, you understand this better and can explain it better than I can. But our brains have limited executive function, which is basically the function of making decisions, willpower, that kind of thing. And the more we expend our limited daily executive function on things like, what am I going to eat for lunch? And where am I going to go writing today? And what time can I make time for writing? And what scene am I going to write today? The less executive function we have for deciding what our characters are going to say or what they're going to do on the page, and having the willpower to actually sit down when we're tired and we don't feel like it. Because once that executive function is gone for the day, it's depleted and you need rest before you can refill it. And so the idea of prepping your plan is really just about make as many decisions ahead of time as you can. And I even do things like prep my meals ahead of time, delegate more to have my husband help out with meals and cleaning throughout the month. I have a uniform that I wear of the same kind of shorts. I have like 5 pairs of the same kind of shorts and the same kind of shirts. And then I just don't have to make any decisions about what I'm wearing, what I'm eating. And I can focus all my decision-making ability on my creative endeavor of writing. Prepping your tools. So there's going to be an area here where you can make a list of all the tools you need. So for me, I have to have highlighters. I like to have stickers. I also like to see these gemstones. These are vase fillers, and I love to have them to represent each chapter, or you could have it to represent every 50 words or every 1,000 words or whatever you want to do, to just have a visual representation. I also love to have a timer. You can find Pomodoro timers. One of my favorites is called wonderspace.app. I will link that down below. But this one's very simple from Amazon. It was maybe like $10. And when it's like this, it's not going, but you can turn it to 25 minutes. And down at the bottom here, it has a timer that's running, and it will beep when the 25 minutes are over. And then you can just turn it to have a 5-minute break, 25 minutes. And the key thing that I like about having something simple like this is that I don't have to open up an app or a website, because the more I am online and my Facebook page is right there and my email's right there, the more likely I am to turn away from my novel. So having something like this is helpful. So what tools do you want to use? I also plan with note cards and have, just some basic pens that I like to use. Highlighters. I have a pencil bag that is full of my various tools. If I can get it open. So I have different kinds of pens. Oh, I forgot I put that spider in there. Come on, little guy. You can live right here. So I have like whiteout, I have dot markers, colorful tombos, and Post-it notes and things like that. So prep all that ahead of time. Not only is it helpful to make those decisions ahead, but it also is fun and it gets our minds like prepped and ready. Now, if you don't find this fun and you don't need any of these tools, maybe all you need is your Scrivener document. That's totally fine. These are all optional things. Software and computer, where are you going to write? How are you going to back up your work? Super important. I tend to download my work and I will back it up once a week in the cloud in an additional spot. So think about that. Health. So make sure you have like a big, nice water bottle that you can have near your desk at all times. Make sure that you have a comfortable chair that's ergonomic, chapstick, lotion, heating pad, Tylenol, whatever it is you need for writing. Think about your health as well. Any extras? So like, do you have a nice pair of headphones if you're going to be writing out at a cafe? Do you have a nice laptop? Do you need any kind of pads for your wrist, notebooks, whatever you need for tools? Go ahead and get it ready and get it prepped before the month begins. Prep your writing crew. So this is one of my favorites, Heart Breathing's writing community. We have daily sprints on YouTube. So it's more than just me. It's the entire community of people. We have almost 8,000 people in our Facebook group. And on YouTube, we sprint every single day. And there's usually extra sprints during the month of November. I think me and my friend Jen, or you might know her as JD, are going to go live on November 1st for our first set of sprints. We also have special events where we have all day long writing sprints. So I will link that Heart Breathing's writing community Facebook group and Google Calendar and stuff down below if you want to come join. Because sometimes when you just don't feel like writing, having a group to write with is key, and it's so encouraging. And I love our admins. Writing groups. So besides Heart Breathings, do you have Discord server? There's a lot of people from NaNoWriMo that have left, but their like local groups are still going to meet separate outside of Nano. So you might want to look into whether your local group is going to meet and start thinking about that. It's just the whole spirit of NaNoWriMo was meant to be about getting the words on the page without overthinking it, and then being in community with fellow writers. And so let's keep that spirit going in whatever way we can. Prep your novel. So here we have a lot of the actual book stuff. So what project are you going to work on? Could be an existing series. It might be a new idea, but let's start thinking about it so we can start getting our plot, characters, whatever level of prep is right for you. Now, I will preface this by saying there's a decent amount of like scene information and character stuff and plotting stuff in this notebook, but not everybody needs that. It's detrimental to some people. So follow what your natural instinct is. Some people really just need a single index card that has like a description of the character they're going to write, or you just know in your head and you like to pants and you just get in there and you discover the story as you go. Lean into that. Don't feel like you need to change it just because it says like, oh, I need a plot here. Like literally nobody's better because they plot or better because they pants. It's just what's best for you as an individual. So determine how much prep you need to start writing. Do you need to do a little bit of world building, a few decisions, or do you need an actual outline and note cards? It's up to you. Character sheets, color coding. I had to put this on there, y'all, because it is so important for me. I write a lot of multiple POV. So Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw has like 8 different points of view. So they each have their own color. They each have their own marker. And I love it. The book that I'm going to be working on for Rough Draft Challenge in November is called A Mirror of Shadows. And I don't even know yet how many points of view. I feel like it's going to be at least 3, but I don't know. I might keep it to 1 point of view. I haven't made those decisions yet. So now's the time. Another thing you could do with color code besides multiple POV, like if you were writing a romance with 2 characters, you could have, one character is pink and one character's blue, or one character's teal and one character's purple. And it could be, whatever your preferred is. But once you start making notes about those characters, it can be helpful on your outline to know which character's scene you're writing. And it is just at a glance, a color code. But you can also use color code for other things like plot points, or for different types of scenes, different types of like Act 1 has one color, Act 2 has a different color, anything you want. Outlining, if you need it. Index cards, scenes, we're going to go over that. Any research that you might want to do doesn't count as words necessarily. So try to get that research in before the beginning of the month. World building. So this is things like the culture, the town, the even just the layout of the house that your character lives in. I'm going to be writing a portal fantasy, literally steps through a mirror. That's why it's called a mirror of shadows. And this world inside the mirror is finite. It has boundaries. And I need to decide and create a map of what this world looks like and what all's in it. And that's going to take time. So I'm excited to do that in October. Then any type of cover art, it's not necessary, but you could make a mock-up cover of your own in Canva or something like that, or, download some inspirational photos, or even like on Pinterest. You can't use those photos you find on Pinterest legally, but you could certainly create a Pinterest board for your characters, your world, and kind of giving yourself some visuals of what's going to happen in your world. Prep your space. So this is all about your physical space. Location. Do you have a favorite coffee shop you're going to try? Do you have a favorite desk that you like to write at? If you don't have a desk or dedicated space in your home, what can you do to create an easy, like, caddy or a certain kind of pencil case or something that you can carry around from place to place so you're not always looking for that favorite pen? Ergonomics. If you're going to sit down and write that much in a month, let's make sure that you have a good chair or a nice pillow behind your back, some nice pads for your wrist. Inspiration. So do you want to clean up your space? Do you want to grab some candles? I always love to have my favorite candle. I actually meant to light this before we started, but maybe this is a sign from the universe. I shouldn't, because I feel like everyone's always scared I'm going to light something on fire. So we'll just enjoy the beauty of that candle from here. Vibe, again, essential oils, candles, lighting, anything that you want to do to make your space feel really good. So right now, if it's a big mess, it might feel really good to just clean it up and dedicate everything that's on your desk to this particular project. All right. Next, we have a to-do list. So this is what research, what planning, what prep. So if while I was going through this list, you were thinking of, I need to do this, I want to do this, I want to grab that, you've got space here to write your to-do list, your shopping list, and any decisions that you need to make. So if you're like, I need to make a decision about whether I'm going to use Scrivener this year or whether I'm going to use Plotter this year, or, whatever it is, make those decisions, write them down so that you can have a nice checklist and see that positive momentum. I truly find that as we're heading into a new year or a new challenge, it's so helpful to build that positive momentum before the month even begins. So don't burn yourself out on it, but just spend the time that makes it feel fun and exciting. Okay, now we're going to get into the actual planning of the time. And this is one of, to me, the biggest factors in determining your success for this entire challenge. So you have a monthly calendar for the month of November, but I have tried, except for the planner part, to design this such that you could use it any time of year for the Rough Draft Challenge. And I will actually be creating one that is time agnostic, that just has undated calendars so that you can do your own Rough Draft Challenge this January or whatever you want. We're going to hopefully do it multiple times throughout the year because November is not ideal for a lot of us, but January, March, some other months like that might be better. Like, let's pick at least a 31-day month, okay? So you have the calendar for November. And again, you've got one that starts on Sunday. And if you prefer the Monday start, grab that one instead. And I have a step-by-step plan. So one of the first things to do when you're thinking about your month is, instead of just saying, I have 30 days to write, let's say your goal is going to be the 50,000. Instead of saying I have 30 days to write, it can be helpful right now to look at your calendar for the month of November and say, what days am I actually not going to be available for writing? So for me, I'm actually going to be at Author Nation conference, and I think I'm there from the 10th to the 16th. It's an entire week. So I would go through here and I would take a highlighter and I would want to put on this calendar that I'm gone to Author Nation. Now, I really don't want to or plan to not write at all during those days, but I also know it's a big conference. There's going to be a lot of my good friends there. It's in Las Vegas. I'm going to be trying to vlog during as much of this as I can. I have no idea what my expectation for myself is in terms of what I'm going to be able to do over these 7 days. So instead of counting it as if I have 7 days, I'm going to mark off the travel days at the very least. I also know there's a book signing on the 15th, and I feel like that's going to be pretty big. My presentations are, I believe, on Tuesday and Thursday. So will I even be able to write at all during those days? I'm just not sure. So to count myself a little bit of buffer time, I'm just only going to say 2 days for that entire week. So then we look at the rest of the month. I probably will not be writing much on Thanksgiving Day, but I don't think we're traveling as much this year. I'm not sure. My husband might fly out to see his dad, but we're going to fly out to see his dad for Christmas and not Thanksgiving this year. So that's, I think, all the days that are just completely off the list. So mark off the days when you won't be able to write. Then choose whether or not you want to add in any buffer days. And if so, how many do you want to add in? So for example, if you have 30 days minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 days off. Do I feel like I'm going to write every other day? Or do I want to build in some buffer days just in case I get a headache, just in case something comes up with the kids or the kids get sick? Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build in 2 buffer days. So I'm going to say right now, tally up your total days off. So that's going to be 8 days and subtract it from 30. So I'm just going to do that over here. Oh, I just realized there's no 30, 31 over here. So I will try to fix that before I upload it to the resource library. But there actually is supposed to be a little thing here also that says what you're supposed to do. So I will go in and fix that. But let's say right now we're starting at 30 days minus 8 days off, and yours might be 15 days off. Once you get realistic about it, be realistic. It's not going to happen anyway. Like I could say that I'm going to write all 7 days here, but that doesn't mean I will. And if I plan as if I'm going to, I'm just going to be behind by the end of the month, or I'm going to set an unrealistic goal and I'm going to be disappointed in myself. So let's be realistic, even if real is disappointing. It's just the truth, right? So 22 days is my available writing days. So that's here, total writing days. Now we're going to take your word count goal and divide it by the number of writing days on your schedule, which will give you a personalized daily word count goal. Now, for me, I'm still just going to set the 50,000 word goal. It's what I'm used to setting in November. It's just what I'm going to set. So we're going to set the 50,000 word goal. I'm going for Ruby. And I'm going to divide that by 22 days. And I'm going to get 2272, which I feel like is pretty close to what I usually get. So my goal for the day that I'm writing is 2,272. And really kind of 73 because it's 0.7. 2273. This is my daily writing goal. And if I can hit that 22 days out of 30, then I will win the challenge. Where I feel like a lot of people go wrong with November is they say, okay, I'm going to write 50,000 words, and they tell us that's 1,667 words a day, and you get 1,667 every single day, but then you hit a couple days where you can't hit that number or you can't write. And because you can't actually make those words up by writing 2,500 a day for these 3 days, there's just no way you can win. And so with this, you're going to give yourself a chance to evaluate whether this is winnable for you. So let's say you set a 50,000 word goal and you have only 18 days of writing days. Once you look at your month, you need to write 2,778 words a day. Now, if you think back to your best days ever, or how long, we're going to look at that in just a minute when we look at math. How long does it take you to write almost 3,000 words a day? You might say to yourself, that is not possible for me without pushing myself beyond a limit that is healthy for my brain and for my body. And so at that point, you need to say, I'm going for the 25K instead, or I'm going to go for the 50, but know that I might adjust it down to the sapphire level of 25K. But this gives you a realistic view. So go through that. Then we're going to turn to the sprint calculator. Now, if you've never done writing sprints before, writing sprint is basically just a period of time, like a Pomodoro timer, where you set a timer and you focus on nothing but your writing. That's why you call it a sprint. You're not checking your emails. You're not talking to people. You're just focused, head down, writing. You do not have to do writing sprints in order to participate in the Rough Draft Challenge. You can just sit down for 45 minutes and write, and then get up and do whatever. But sprints can also be really helpful because a lot of times if you have an hour to write and there's no timer going or anything like that, you look down and you got distracted by this and your husband came in and then you answered somebody's text message and next thing you know, your whole hour has gone by and you haven't actually gotten any writing done. So the benefit to setting a timer, be it 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 45 minutes or whatever, is that it's a focus tool. It says, okay, I am dedicating this amount of time to nothing but my writing. So we're going to use sprints to calculate our possible number of time or number of sprints that we need to win. There is an entire word sprint challenge that's a 5-day challenge inside the resource library. If you want to go check that out, where you can, if you've never done sprints before, you can experiment with time of day, different times of sprints. Like you might do better with a 15-minute sprint than a 25-minute sprint, but some people do better with like an hour-long sprint because 25 minutes, you're just getting into flow and then you're interrupting yourself. So just because a lot of the word sprints that we do in the Heart Breathings writing community are 25 minutes does not mean that's what you have to do. It's just a suggestion that works for a majority of people. But some people, 25 minutes is too long. 20 minutes is the sweet spot. So if you want to find your sweet spot, look for the Word Sprint Challenge document inside the resource library, and it's going to help you figure out your sprint length. My preferred sprint length is 25 minutes with a 5-minute break. So you're going to write down what yours is right here. So when I add 25 minutes plus 5-minute break, I get 30-minute sprints, and that means I can get 2 per hour. Then what you're going to do is you're going to figure out your average word count per sprint. Some of you already know this. Some of you have no clue. For me, the way that, now if you do that 5-day challenge that's free, it's just a workbook that you can do that gives you all the instructions, you'll figure all this stuff out. But what you can do is you can just say, okay, I'm going to say, like Sarah, I'm going to do 25-minute sprints. So between now and maybe next week, take a day and say, I'm going to do 3 or 4 25-minute sprints and set the timer. And then I'm just going to write. It can be a blog post. It could be research for your book, whatever. And then when the 25 minutes is over, keep track of how many words you wrote during that sprint. And then over the course of 4 or 5 of those sprints, you can divide them and get your average number of words per sprint. My current average number of words per sprint is 650 words. So I can write 650 words every 30 minutes on average. Sometimes I blow that out of the water. The other night I wrote a 1,300 word sprint in 30 minutes. That does not always happen. Sometimes I only write 200 words, but it all kind of evens out as an average. Then you can figure out the sprints that you need per day. So for example, if your daily word count target from this exercise over here, we say is 2273. The average word count per sprint for me is 650. That I pulled from here. Your number is going to be different from mine. I'm going to take my calculator and I'm going to say 2273 divided by 650 gives me 3.5 sprints. So really, if I want to hit this number, I need to sprint 4 sprints. To guarantee that I'm going to hit that number, I need 4 sprints a day. So then if you use this part of it, you can also see if I need 4 sprints and each sprint is 30 minutes, I need 2 hours of writing time a day. So if you go through this process, and there's going to be another set of tools here, we're going to run through it. If you run through this process and you realize that you need 2 hours of writing time per day to hit your goal, and there's no way in hell you're going to have 2 hours to write, like it never happens, the most you have is an hour a day, then your goal is too high. And you need to take this goal and split it in half. So instead of 50K, you're aiming for 25K. And trust me when I say there's going to be a part of you for many of us that goes, but I've got to hit the 50K, because we're trained for NaNoWriMo to believe that 50K is somehow better than 25K. But 50K that you don't hit, that you practically like burn yourself out and run yourself into the ground trying to hit, and then at the end of the month feel like a failure because you couldn't do it, is not better than a solid 25K you felt really good about. Like 25K or 10K that was doable for you, that you kept your health, that you kept your joy, and they're good, solid words that you feel like you put your heart into, is infinitely better than aiming for 50K, not hitting it, and being upset with yourself. Like, trust me on this. So use this math, this workbook to figure out what's realistic for me. And this is exactly how you do it. You figure out how long your sprints are. So for me, it's 30 minutes. Determine your average words per sprint, your daily word count goal from the calculator. Divide these numbers, and that'll give you your number of sprints per day. You multiply the sprints per day times the time per sprint, and you'll get your number. That's for me 120 minutes. That's 2 hours. Go through this again. The challenge math here gives you even more to work with. I am not a math aficionado, but this has changed my life, being able to do this. So you put your challenge word count goal. Let's say we're going to experiment with different numbers. Let's say you're aiming for 25,000. You're going to be a sapphire. Let's do it. And let's say from the sprint calendar, you have 20 days to write. That's your 25,000 goal. 20 days is what you're estimating because you need 10 days of buffer. You're going to take 25,000 and divide it by 20. And you're going to need 1,250 daily word counts. Then you pull that daily word count down and you say 1,250 divided by what's your average word count per sprint. Let's say you're doing 30 minutes of sprints. Let's say, just for the sake of this example, that you can get about 325 words per sprint. So we're going to take 325 per sprint, and you're going to say, again, I need 4 sprints per day. This math totally changes if you're at 650 words per sprint. So if you're 650, you only need 2. But your average word count is your average word count. And I think sometimes we naturally want to judge and say, well, if Sarah can get 650, I should be able to do that. And we think that we're somehow not as good, or there's something wrong with us if ours is lower, 325. But I type really fast, and I've been writing for a long time. I've got 30 novels. Not everybody can write this fast, but your words might be better than mine in terms of you might write 325 words that make it to your final draft, or you might only write 200 words, but try not to judge yourself for what your reality is, right? So let's say we're at 325 and you need 4 sprints a day to hit your goal of 1,250. So we take the 4 sprints per day, we pull that down, and we say 30 minutes. Now we have 4 times 30 is 120. We need 2 hours a day to write. If it was over here and we needed 2 sprints a day, we would need 1 hour a day. Some of you might need 3 hours a day. It depends on the numbers. And some of you have 300 or 3 days. Some of you have 3 hours a day. Some people, the most you're going to get is 30 minutes. And so you got to figure out your math. And you could actually reverse engineer this too. I didn't actually think to put this in the calendar here, but let's say you only have 30 minutes a day. And in 30 minutes, you can write 500 words. That means 500 words a day is your max, right? Then you go back to the calendar and you say, I've got 22 days that I can write this month. That gives you your goal for the month. Your most realistic goal is 11,000. So don't aim for 50K if your numbers tell you 11,000 is the best you can do. So let's do that again. Let's say you write 500 words per sprint, and let's say you have time to write for an hour a day. That's twice a day, 1,000 words a day. And let's say you have 25 days that you can write for the month. That means your best case scenario goal is Sapphire at 25,000. And don't judge that. Just be like, wow, I'm so glad I have this tool that I can use to see what's achievable for me, because really goals are no good if they're unachievable. They're impossible, right? We want targets that we can hit that are interesting and achievable. Okay, so total challenge word count goal. So that's the same number as up here. Let's say it was 25,000 divided by your average word count per sprint. So that's this number, 325, gives us another number, which is how many total sprints do you need to do to win? So for this, it's going to be 77 sprints. So that gives you an idea of how many sprints you need to do. So if you want to front load it for yourself, you could say, well, I'm going to try to do 5 sprints a day for the first few days, and then I only need 1 or 2 for the rest of the days, right? So you might be able to say to yourself, I can do more on the weekends than I can on a random Tuesday. So instead of saying I'm going to write 4 sprints per day, I'm going to do 10 over the weekend. And then I'm going to do 3 a day on my working like weekdays. So this just gives you an overview of the math. Then we have a rewards planner. I used to say 10, 20, 30, 40, and then 50K because we were all going for the 50K. But let's say you're going for 25K. What I would do here is I would just divide that by 5 and give myself a reward every 5,000. So you would write 5,000, 10K, 15K, 20K, 25K. And then over here, you would give yourself a reward. And there's a place further back in the planner where you can brainstorm rewards for yourself. So if you don't know yet what you want to put officially on here, just go to later in the planner and you could brainstorm, like you could buy yourself new washi tape, new highlighters. If that's the kind of thing that lights you up, you could give yourself rewards like when I hit 5,000 words, I'm going to go on that hike I really wanted to do, or I'm going to allow myself to go out to the movies, or I'm going to binge watch that new show on Netflix. Like just think about some rewards, or it could be food. Like I'm going to make myself a big bowl of popcorn with a hot cocoa. Just give yourself rewards that you'll feel really good about. Sometimes what I like to do is blind boxes because that's really fun. You can get a Hello Kitty blind box or a Tokidoki blind box for like $10. So it's fun to do that and then get to open it and see what you got. So think about that. You've got a little quote page here. Then we have the meal planner. So again, use what you want out of this. You can just choose to not print the ones that you don't or that you're not interested in. But this gives you a chance to write down 5 breakfasts, 5 lunch, a few snacks, and some dinner, 7 days of dinner ideas. And if you just go through and write out what your go-to breakfasts are. For me, I'm going to eat the same breakfast every single day, which is going to be 2 eggs and half of an avocado every single day, probably with some fruit. And that's going to be my one breakfast. Lunch for me is usually a salad with some grilled chicken. And then dinner every night is something a little bit different, but I'm going to delegate that my husband is going to make this. And actually I'm going to go ahead and put our dinners on our family calendar so that he knows what to make and I don't have to think about it. So write down your meals and then plan them out in your planner. I'll show you where to do it. Okay, now we get into the actual plotting of the book. So we're not going to go through every little piece of this, but I did go through this last year in my how to outline your novel video. So I'm going to link that down below so that this video isn't like an hour and a half, but it takes you through first a way to brainstorm ideas, like list movies that you loved. What things do you love about those movies? Who are your main characters? Who are the villains that you like? What kind of settings do you like? So these pages are really good for people that are like, I just don't know what I'm writing yet. Do I want to write a romance? Do I want to write a thriller? This will give you lots of good ideas. Then you have a place to brainstorm some about your characters and what's the central conflict of your story, like what's standing in your hero's way of making their goals come true. Are there any things you can think about in terms of setting? How does your story open? How does the story end? And then what else do you currently know about your story? And I put the word novel here, but you don't have to be writing a novel. It could be a short story or a novella or whatever. Then you have a challenge project sheet. So this is kind of like a basic idea of your challenge. What's the working title of your book? What's the basic premise, or like what's the book about? Who's the main character? Who are the side characters? Who's the villain if you have one? What's the main conflict in this book? And what's the resolution? Meaning, how does it end? How does it all end? Then over here, you have a section where you can list out 10 possible scenes. So if you don't know yet anything that's happening in your book in terms of the plot, but you're like, oh, in my head, I've already imagined this argument that she's going to have with her brother, or I know how it opens, or I can see that last scene, or I know there's going to be this car accident scene, go ahead and write those scenes in here. And you never know, in the middle of November, when you're going to be like, I'm totally stuck, you can turn back to this page and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that bedroom scene where they're going to argue with each other, blah, blah, blah. Like, write those scenes down. And they don't have to necessarily be in order. It's just a way to sort of get what's in your head onto the page. Then we have an even stronger outline. Now, I have multiple versions of this. And like I said, I've got a whole series here on YouTube on how to plot your novel. And in fact, I have those sheets are inside your resource library as well, where it's going to take you through Act 1, Act 2, all of these different pieces of the book. And I wanted to redo that whole series this year, and I just haven't had time. So maybe it's coming in 2025. But basically, you can go through this entire outline, and if you can answer these questions, you'll have an outline for your book. So where is the main character at the beginning of the book, both emotionally and physically? What's their setting? Who are they? What's their job? Or, are they just moving to a brand new town? What's their normal world? What's the opening scene, the dramatic question? And if you don't know what some of these things are, like what's a dramatic question, number one, you can probably Google it. Number two, go watch my video on how to outline, and I'm going to talk you through it. I also will have more videos coming up throughout this month where I'm going to walk you through an easier way to outline if this is too much for you. So we've got more videos coming. Then I have a whole section here on how to brainstorm scenes, because I find that what a lot of people go through is they can see the big turning points. Like I've got the battle, or I've got the moment where they kiss the first time, but I can't figure out how to get from the beginning to that first kiss. And so this walks you through kind of how to create a scene. And one of the things that I do is I create note cards. For Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, I have kept them in this note card, photo album kind of thing. So this kind of gives you an idea of how I do it. So scene overview is a brief description of the setting. Lorelai chases Vanessa out of the cabin and into the woods. It's raining. Point of view character, I wrote that. I actually don't have that. I just have it in color. So this is Lorelai in the past. This is Lorelai in the future. It's dual timelines. So I use color code to delineate the characters. Conflict. What obstacle does your character face in relation to their goal? So her goal is to talk to Vanessa and apologize, get her to come back inside. The conflict, though, is that Vanessa won't listen to her. She's not coming back. The outcome of the scene, how does the scene end? Vanessa disappears and she's never seen again. Then I also have some clues here that I wanted to put in because it is a mystery. So some of these scene cards, I just wrote GCO, which is goal, conflict, outcome. And then I also will write any other type of character arc points. This for me is super, super helpful. And again, if you really want to go all in on trying to outline your book, I have an entire series here on YouTube called How to Write Great Scenes. And there is an entire workbook that goes along with it, but it'll walk you through how to figure out how to string one scene to the next. But there is a little bit of a 10-step list here, like reflect on what happened in the previous scene, determine how best to transition from that scene into the next one, determine your point of view character's goal, and so on. So read through this, you might find it helpful. And again, I'm going to reiterate this like 1,000 times. You don't have to create scene cards. You don't have to know anything about your scenes. Follow your own intuition. Some people just don't need this. I need this. That's just my writing process, but it doesn't make me better or worse than anyone who doesn't need this. And in fact, I super greatly envy those of you who this would hurt you. Like I would love to be able to just sit down and write. Now, my story does change as I'm writing. I'm still discovering the story. I don't always follow what's on the list, but for me, I have to know. And sometimes it's just an intuitive thing where you have to kind of get in there and decide how much of this story do I need to have figured out for me before I feel good about writing. Some people need to know the ending and then they're off to the races. Some people just need to know the character's name and they're ready to go. So trust yourself because you know better than anyone else what you need to be writing. And you can use November and the Rough Draft Challenge as a way to get to know that, because you might do some outlining and then find in November that you wish you hadn't outlined. Also think back to previous years. Like, did you outline and then not use it? Did you do too much outlining and burn yourself out to where you couldn't even write in November because you lost interest in the story? Use those as big hints for yourself because you are the master of your own process. Nobody else knows that as well as you are. So just because I've got these scenes and you've tried it before doesn't mean you still need to do it. If it wasn't working for you before, maybe you just don't need it. So give yourself that permission to say, I don't like to do scenes. I just need to know X, Y, Z, and I'm ready to go. All right. Creativity Toolbox. So I have a video on this from previous years as well. So I'm going to link all this stuff down below, but take a few minutes to think about simple things that make you feel good, like wearing cozy socks, lighting your favorite candles, having little spiders on your desk, stickers, anything that makes you feel really good that lights you up, that refills your well. It could be sitting down every night to read so that you feel excited about what you're doing tomorrow. It could be gaming. It could be walking out in nature. It could be spending time with your best friend and talking about your story. Write all that stuff down so that as you get throughout the month, if you start to feel burned out, you have a list of ways to refill your own well. This is that rewards brainstorm. And this is something that a lot of people do where you've got 30 days in November. So what you could do is have 30 small rewards instead of having those big, like 10,000 word rewards, or you could do both, where you have like a jar, something like this, where you've got 30 Hershey's Kisses in it. And the end of every 1,000 words or the end of every day when you hit your goal, you get to eat a Hershey's Kiss, or you can take a piece of note papers and exchange them with your best friend. Like you each write 30 encouraging words to each other. And at the beginning of every day or the end of every day, you open up a note that your friend wrote to you. That stuff like that can be so helpful and so fun. Okay. Emergency motivation. At some point in the month, if you want to quit, what is your emergency motivation? So this is a way to brainstorm things like one that I was writing a zombie book in my Eternal Sorrow series. If I got stuck, I would go play Left 4 Dead, or I would go watch 28 Days Later, or something that inspired me to want to write that kind of book. With A Mirror of Shadows, I've got a Pinterest board. I have some other Portal fantasy books that I've read. I've got some fantasy things that I might turn to. So start thinking about what's my emergency motivation that once I start to think I don't want to do this anymore is going to make me feel really excited. Your emergency motivation might be your best friend. Okay, give me a pep talk, whatever it is. Might be coming to watch one of my videos. All right, you did it. You're ready for the Rough Draft Challenge. There's some information here for you. And now you've got a little sign that you can put on your door if you want, right or at work. And we move into the actual planner. For the Rough Draft Challenge here, I have created, yet again, it's a game board on the outside that does go to 50K. And then here you have little boxes for each day of the month. And the way that I typically fill this out is I will put my word count for the day at the top and then my total word count so far for the month at the bottom. If you want to also, beneath the box, you can put what your word count target is for today. I used to have this filled out with the actual word count for 50K challenge, but since we're not all doing 50K, what I would recommend is if you're heading for 10K, then highlight this and cover the rest of this in washi tape so that you know, okay, I've got my 10K. And so on. If you're heading for 100K, I guess maybe print this twice or make extra boxes around the edge. I'm not sure, but either way, try to figure out a way to use this that will serve you. And if not, don't worry about it. Then you have your actual planner. So at the top, you have your meal planner. And then at the bottom, you have your schedule and then a space for notes here on the side. So Friday, for example, you've got breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, and then your schedule for the day. And I encourage you at least the night before or something to go in and say, when am I going to write on Friday? When do I have time? Okay, I got to work. I got to get this meeting. I can write from 4 to 6. So you identify that time before it gets to be the end of the night. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even write on day 1. Day 2, Saturday, we have double down day, meaning there will be sprints probably from 6 a.m. till midnight that day. So come join us in the Heart Breathings writing community. Then at the end of every week, you have a daily planner. This is exactly the same as last year. So I say at the top of the page how many days remaining, and that includes today. So you've got 29 days remaining, including today. So what's your beginning word count at the beginning of the day? How many words do you have left to write? So on day 1, it's going to be whatever your goal is, and then your goal again. You can write your intention for the day, when you're going to write, how much you want to write, what scenes you're going to write over here, your word tracker. So if you want to do like 5 sprints, you can track them here. What's your mood? Are you feeling energetic? Are you feeling excited? This is helpful because, and you could also just draw a little face or something, or you could highlight this in a specific color and have a color code for it. But one of the things that is helpful is at the end of the month, you can go back and look and see, like I had a lot of days this month where I just felt tired, and maybe that's why I couldn't hit the goal this year. What you're loving about the story, keep those positive vibes flowing. And then a daily wrap up that says, okay, here's how the day went. Total words for the day, new monthly total. So this is how much you got done on the 1st, and then your total for the month. Then you can carry that over to the next day and so on. You've got a Sunday page, and then you've got a weekly wrap up where you can say how you felt about the week. You can keep track of your daily word count and your total words for the week. What's working, what's not working, story problems I'm trying to think through, and my intentions for the next week. And putting what story problems you're thinking through, like questions in your mind. Gosh, how am I going to get these two together? Or what did I want to say about her mother's backstory? Just telling your subconscious mind that you're trying to answer that question will have it working while you sleep, while you're on the treadmill, while you're in the shower. So I highly recommend doing that. And something you might want to do is actually write it on a Post-it note instead of just writing it here. So you might say, okay, I'm working through a problem about, the mom's death. You write it here on a Post-it note. You go to get on the treadmill tomorrow. You put that at the front of the treadmill. And as you're walking or running, you're thinking about, how am I going to solve this problem? And then once it's solved, you've got it. But if it's not, you move it to next week. Just some ideas. Oh, the kids just got home from school. Okay, so that just repeats all the way through to the end of the month. And then at the end of the month, you do have a challenge wrap up that says your total words that you got for November, the average words you ended up getting per day. How did you feel? What was your highest day, your lowest day, your best memory, what you're really proud of, what worked great this year, what didn't work, and my intentions for this book. So you might be able to say, well, I wrote 25,000, I need 75,000 more, and then I'm going to self-publish it or whatever. While the story's fresh, journal here about what major changes, edits, updates you need to make, because you might want to take a break at the end of November and you'll come back to this story in January, and it will be helpful to have these notes about threads you want to pull through, characters you want to change, things you want to change about the setting, whatever. Then we have word count trackers. So remember how earlier in the math section, we figured out how many sprints we needed to win. And in that example, it was 77. So you might want to highlight 77. And then as you work your way through the sprints, you'll put how much you wrote this sprint, how much you've written total for the day, and then how much you've written total so far for the month. You can keep track of all your data. You could put this in a spreadsheet if you don't want to track it physically, but it gives you that goal of saying, okay, every single one is a step forward and all I got to do is make it over here and I'm going to win. That can super help. So you've got room for 200 sprints here. There's also some word count sheets. This one is based on 50,000 words. This one is based on your custom word count goal. So you can just do the math to figure out how many you want to do per day. And then you've got a project tracker here where you can basically fill in for every 100 words you write. This is for 50,000 words. So if you're only doing 25,000, you might paste a picture in here. If you're doing 10,000, you might cover these up. If you're doing 100, print this page again. Customize it to your liking. Then we have another game board. And again, you could use something like this every day to move yourself on the game board. Okay, it's day 3, and then write your total in. I always find this really fun to do. And then at the end of the month, where did you end up? And then a final sheet, please do not disturb the author unless you have chocolate. And if so, leave it by the door, please. And then you've got a notes page that you can print as many times as you want. We did it. I know this video has been long, but I hope that you love your new Rough Draft Challenge planner. I hope you love the new challenge itself. Again, I'm not trying to be an opportunist. I think most of you know that. This is just a way to keep the community together when so many people did not want to participate in NaNoWriMo anymore. Like, let's lean on this. But if you're doing Kate Kavanaugh's 100K challenge or any other challenge out there, feel free to share it in the comments. There's nothing here about like, this is my thing. I really and truly just want everybody to be writing. So however you get those words on the page, I'm cheering you on 100%. So let's have an amazing month ahead for Preptober. There's going to be lots of good videos coming out about outlining and developing a daily writing habit. If there's any pieces of the writing process that you're most struggling with, there's still time to make a request for a video before we get started. And also, if possible, come order my Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw book on pre-order. I'm going to have it on pre-order for signed copies as well. If you head over to sarracannon.com and hit the blog, we're doing my Spooktacular right now. And you can also come join us on the channel over there at Sarra Cannon here on YouTube. I will link that down below as well. Many of you have been waiting to see my writing retreat of my cabin in the woods. I'm going to be posting that actually on my Sarra Cannon channel as part of Spooktacular. So I will link that for you down below. Definitely come watch. I'm going to send it out in email as well for those of you that want to watch it. But go get your free Preptober planner. If you are not on my newsletter list yet, that link is the very first link down below. Sign up for the list. It's going to download immediately once you confirm. the Sunday start version of it. But if you want the Monday start, just go into the resource library, which I'll send you a link for, and you can get the digital one, or you can print the either one of the printable versions. All right. I super love you guys. I'm so excited for the Rough Draft Challenge this year. Thank you for being here. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, definitely go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Comment down below and let me know what you're going to be working on this year for the Rough Draft Challenge. And I will see you throughout the rest of the month. Let's get to writing. Bye, everybody.